Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, July 12th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Akron game in 50 days. Yes, that means tomorrow it will be 7 weeks till the Akron game. The game against Michigan in 140 days. Yes, that means tomorrow it will be 20 weeks until the Michigan game. It's getting here. Season's getting here. One thing that will help you spend the time between now and the kickoff of the Akron game is the release of the new EA Sports college football game. The official release date, July 19th, which is, yes, 1 week from today. However, Matt Brown of the Extra Points newsletter, who has been really plugged in on this stuff, reported last week or early this week that the early access period of the game for the people that pay a little bit extra for the bulked up package, that is, as he understands it, going to be July 15th at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern. So that's getting right around the corner. Just get through the weekend and the game will be here. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about what we've learned about the game and what we've learned about some of the ratings for the Ohio State players. The highest ranked Ohio State players in the game. They released the top 100 players rated in the game, and 8 of them are Buckeyes. We're going to be talking about that, as well as a few players from the other side of the greatest rivalry in all of sports. We're going to be doing that with Tony Gerdeman of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Tony, the first thing I saw when I looked at the list of Ohio State players was the top 2 rated players who are Buckeyes. Neither of them was on the team last year. Neither of them is Jeremiah Smith. That, for a team that has as much talent returning as they do, is really pretty intriguing to me, and also tells me just how successful they were in the transfer portal this last offseason.
Yeah, not that we needed a video game to make that known to us, but yeah, 2 guys that weren't on the team, 2 guys that at this time last year weren't really in the mind frame of any Ohio State person, and maybe some were still suffering the burns from losing Caleb Downs in recruiting. But yeah, I mean, we've seen so many people touting a lot of other teams for the amount of work that they've done in the portal. I think, again, Ohio State's effectiveness we'll see it more on the field, obviously, but this is another reminder that they went and found guys that they felt could help, and the video game people agree.
Yeah, Caleb Downs rated a 95. Quinshon Judkins rated a 95. So those are 2 very big additions to this year's Ohio State team, both when you are playing on your Xbox or PS5, and also when Ryan Day is playing on the field at Ohio Stadium a little later on this fall. So those are your 2 highest rated Buckeyes. Next 2 guys, both rated a 93, Emeka Egbuka and Travion Henderson. And it's interesting because this is one of these things where I feel like Travion Henderson is almost a little bit forgotten in some ways by Buckeye fans, or a little bit overlooked or underrated in some ways. And Emeka Egbuka probably kind of the same, where they've both had, both were banged up at times last year, didn't have the full season. Now you have the new shiny thing coming in terms of Quinshon Judkins as a running back. You get Jeremiah Smith as a wide receiver. You got Carnell Tate. There's a bunch of talent in that wide receiver room, and it feels like those are two guys who are maybe just a little bit overlooked or underrated by, at least a segment of the Ohio State fan base, but getting the recognition by via EA here.
Yeah, the not familiarity breeds contempt, but familiarity breeds,
complacency,
boredom, complacency. Yeah, it's very, very good. And you look at Travion Henderson, just scanning through the ratings right now. I believe they have him as the fastest running back among at least the top 100, because all we know are the top 100. So yeah, they have him listed as the 94 speed time, which, as we know, is pretty fast. It equates to about a 10.62 100 meters virtually, just so you know. I've done that math in my head. I think it's interesting. Emeka Egbuka, they have him listed as a 98 awareness. I don't know what you got to do for a 99 at some point. Is this like the no first ballot Hall of Famers in baseball, where we're not giving anybody a 99 on nothing? But clearly 2 guys that are in line for big seasons for Ohio State. 2 guys who are honestly 2 of the most unselfish offensive stars we've seen come through Ohio State in a while. Travion Henderson signed in a class with another running back, has been more than willing to share carries with Mayan Williams or Dallin Hayden or whoever else. Emeka Egbuka, I remember talking to him last year about missing time, and I asked him, are you focused on like catching up, making up for lost time? He's like, no, I just want to win. And this is a guy that was looking at being a first-round draft pick back in April. And that didn't happen because of injuries, but he has stayed the course. And two just really, really unselfish guys will do whatever it takes to win. And I think that's why got some very good qualities throughout all of their ratings, and coaches, kind of the coach's dream aspect of players right there.
Both of those guys were either 5 stars or very, very high 4 stars, depending on who you asked in the recruiting world when they came out of high school. Now both going into their final season as Buckeyes. That is also true of Jack Sawyer and Donovan Jackson, the next two guys on the list. Sawyer rated a 92, Donovan Jackson a 91. Those, Jack Sawyer is kind of in that same boat with a lot of the stuff you just said about Emeka Egbuka. He was kind of viewed as one of the ringleaders in terms of making the decision to come back, and then, making sure a lot of other guys joined him in that decision to come back. And Donovan Jackson feels like another guy who's had, the really steady, not a huge spotlight guy, but just a really steady, solid career as a Buckeye. It's nice to see him get some recognition here. And, the way Jack Sawyer came on at the end of last season, it feels like maybe if they were making these ratings in October of last year, maybe Jack Sawyer's not on this list. And if Jack Sawyer continues playing the way he did towards the end of last season, Jack Sawyer might be, several spots higher on this list if he can continue that this fall.
Well, I think it's also interesting that he is listed here and JT Tuimoloau is not. And when we're talking about the top 100 players, EA didn't have him in that top 100. And he has gotten much more attention than Jack Sawyer over the years. But I think the way Jack Sawyer closed it out has been instrumental in the hype and the attention, which is also the case for one of the players on the cover, which we can talk about in a little bit. But again, another one, awareness of 97. And I wouldn't disagree with that. He's been asked to do many different things at Ohio State, has been solid every year. Donovan Jackson, one of those guys where may not be a superstar, but he's all Big Ten. And on the offensive line, you're not going to be necessarily, you're not always going to get a Paris Johnson or certainly not an Orlando Pace. But if you can just get a guy who's not a problem and is good, I think you take those guys all the time as well.
Yeah, no question. It's, interior offensive linemen a lot of times are a little bit like long snappers to me, where if you don't notice them, they're probably doing a really good job. And it feels like there have been long stretches where you've not necessarily noticed Donovan Jackson, which means he's probably doing his job pretty darn well on the interior of that offensive line. One guy who we definitely always notice and who we were delighted to notice in interviews over the course of years is our favorite interview subject, Denzel Burke. Interview quality is not one of the ratings that EA Sports lists. However, he is always a great interview, but also really, really elite corner, someone who jumped out to a very fast start to his career. He was just an immediate impact guy as a true freshman. That was a little bit of a surprise. Has continued to improve over the course of his career. Tyleik Williams, another guy who flashed early and has now really come on really strong at the end of his career. You look at this list and Caleb Downs, Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke, Tyleik Williams, that is the core of a very, very good defense, whether you're playing a video game or you're playing in real life. You got a pretty good defensive line. You got a pretty good secondary. That is going to go a long way this fall, you'd think, whether, for players at home and players on the field at Ohio Stadium.
Yeah, and for players of the video game, I'm looking at Tyleik Williams with the speed of 76, acceleration of 88, strength of 94. I am thinking short yardage package, give him the ball, see if you can't maybe move the lineup around, get him involved. You don't necessarily have to get him outside, although, 76, he'll be able to get the corner on some teams. I think that's interesting. And, we've said it all about Denzel Burke, so I don't know. I don't necessarily need to say any more, but he's just been a very complete player for a long time, has recognized when he's had struggles and has talked about it, but also recognizes when he's doing very well and has talked about it.
And so that covers the Ohio State side of things. Did want to touch on a couple names from Michigan that were rather noteworthy. One of them is the top overall rated player in the game. That is corner Will Johnson. He is one of 3 players rated at a 96, but considered the number 1 overall player in the game. And before we get to the cover boy next, I just want to say, yeah, I have no problem with Will Johnson being the top overall player in the game. That, that seems like one that's like, you kind of go, yeah, sure. That seems about right.
Yeah, it's got to be somebody, but when it's, I saw that and it's like, yeah, I'm not going to complain about it, because if you're going to complain about it, then you're going to say, well, who should it be? It's like, well, watch Will Johnson and tell me how many better players there are than him in big games and regular games. When was the last time you saw him have a bad moment? He's very, very good. He's very, very consistent. And, these are all projections, so I'm not going to get upset about somebody projecting Will Johnson to be really, 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 really good, because he's at least three of those reallys and perhaps the fourth.
Mason Graham, the second highest rated Michigan player, at a 95. Colston Loveland at a 92. And then Tony at a 91. Comes the cover boy, Donovan Edwards. When they announced him on the as the cover boy for, and one of three players on the cover of the game, along with Travis Hunter and Quinn Ewers, I think there was a broad reaction of, huh? Why would you pick him? Why, it doesn't seem like he's the best player on his team. Doesn't seem like he's the best running back even in his conference. And it was, you thought, okay, well, what are the ratings going to be? Are they really going to juice his ratings because he's on the cover? And he's a 91. So on a team with one returning starter, on offense, he is the second highest rated player on his offense. He would be the third highest rated running back on the Ohio State team. I looked at those ratings and went, yeah, okay. That's probably about where I would have had him. I'm still a little confused on why he's on the cover, but maybe Will Johnson said no. I don't know. That still feels a little weird to me, but this feels about like where I would probably have guessed he would be.
Yeah, I think he's listed as the number 49 overall player, and I think Quinn Ewers is like 27, which is surprising because of the attention that he receives. But yeah, when you look at his numbers last year, he carried the ball 14 times in the postseason, and it's like, boy, that's not a lot for a cover guy. Now he's going to carry it a bunch more this year, but I think that you've got a national championship player, so that alone is something worth noting. Like, you're going to have somebody. They wanted somebody from Michigan. Who do you get? You can't go to the quarterback. You probably go to the running back over Will Johnson, because people know offense more than they know defense, and so it makes sense in that way. I think it's still a little bit of an odd choice, but again, one that is as much about projection as anything, even though always in the past, you couldn't have current players. It was old players. So it was what they've done. But now also there's the tradition of having Michigan football players on the cover. I think Desmond's done it. Denard Robinson was the last cover boy. And so maybe there's a little homage to that there as well.
Well, that new game, again, according to Matt Brown of the Extra Points Newsletter, the early access period starting July 15th at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So you can look forward to that early next week. You can look forward to the full release at the end of that next week. And then after that, you can look forward to the start of Big Ten Media Days and the unofficial start of the college football calendar. That season right around the corner. Tony, Kevin, and I will be in Indianapolis for Big Ten Media Days. We'll have plenty of stuff to talk about, including, I'm sure, plenty about the EA Sports game. And, of course, the actual games on the field as well. Those are pretty fun. We like those. We will be there to talk about all that stuff at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. We had our whole team of X's and O's gurus making you a smarter football fan. We're going to have some X's and O's shows coming up here very soon next week. You have to look forward to that. That is all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.